Hey people, it's Andrew here, and today is the day we talk about Halo ODST. It's basically an expansion off of Halo 3. It's got its own storyline and a few different perks that make it stand out from the original game. The first thing you'll notice when you jump in is how dated the cinematic graphics look. The in-game ones look pretty good, but holy god, what the hell happened? Look at their faces.
How about you show some respect, Romeo?
Just saying, Dutch.
There's also a lot of voice work done by notable actors like Nathan Fillion and Tricia Helfer, but it could have been done better.
I wasn't looking at her gear. Seriously?
The game sets up during the events of Halo 2. You end up jumping with the rest of your squad in an attempt to thwart a Covenant cruiser. It then decides to jump in atmosphere, which levels the entire city, and it sends all the ODSTs spiraling out of control. Once you get out of your pod, you've got to find out what happened to your squad, and that's the basis of the game. Once you do gain control of your character, Bungie treats you to the realization you are not the Master Chief. You're an ODST or an orbital drop shock trooper. There's a lot of drawbacks compared to the superior Spartans we're all used to playing. However, these guys are supposed to be the best of the best. But onto the weapons. Hey, the pistol is back, and you can zoom in. The thing is a headshot machine. The silenced SMG, that's a new one too. It can zoom, and they're both pretty good against unshielded foes. But how do they do against the tougher guys? Yep, they're pretty terrible. But you'll be picking up Covenant weaponry for the rest of the game, which is much more reliable. As an ODST, combat isn't going to alienate Halo fans because it's largely the same. You'll still be running and gunning, but you're slower and you take permanent health damage if your stamina goes down. It really just reflects the gameplay from the first Halo game. And don't worry about the permanent health damage. Any problems can be fixed by medkits in nearby buildings. But you have to be smart, and you can't expect to run in their guns blazing and get out unscathed. This is perhaps the biggest change to the Halo formula. Being human means menaces like the Hunter are much more apparent. It's a different fight since you can't easily get around them like you used to. Being slower, being unable to dual wield, the stamina system which acts like the shield the Master Chief has. So I guess that means your physical constitution can deflect bullets. It's all a change of pace, and it works pretty well, just like the new stealth mechanic. As the Master Chief, you never really used it, but if you sneak, enemies won't notice you. This means that you can avoid conflict if you choose. And honestly, you won't be sneaking up on foes, as taking them out from a distance is just quicker. But you do have the silenced SMG, which doesn't work worth a damn. The city looks nice, and I like the idea of playing as a soldier, but what I hate is this new overworld approach. As the rookie, you get the pleasure of traversing a vacant city with car alarms that turn on from 30 yards away. It's also completely dark, and instead of loading screens, you get gates. Wonderful gates. And more cars that randomly turn on. Now you could explore the interiors, but there's nothing ever there. In order to see, you'll have the visor mode on at all times, and it gives everything a fine highlight, but it feels like you're playing light bright with guns. At least there's a map that helps you locate your destinations, and it gives you a nice view of the city. It just doesn't pause the game when you look at it. But nothing to do when exploring the city? What the hell am I talking about? You could get the audio logs like every other game. They pretend to tell you a story, but it's just chatter and random gunfire. At least finding logs nets you secret weapon caches, which prove really useful. Some of them will have a mongoose or two, which is really helpful for moving around the boring city. Once you get them, you can ditch stealth altogether and shoot straight toward your destination. Cool! Another gate! As the rookie, you need to find your squad, and you do this by finding certain items that initiate a flashback. During these moments, you'll take control of your other squad members and play through their scenario. These are pretty generic, self-explanatory Halo battles, and by the end, the story doesn't amount to anything spectacular. Firefight is the new multiplayer mode which mimics the success of Gears of War 2's Horde mode. You can play with up to 4 people, and you're put up against waves of ever-increasing Covenant. Skulls are activated as you slowly progress up the tree, which makes the game much more difficult. Your team also shares a certain number of lives. It's much better than Horde mode because you get the whole Covenant armada after you, but there's no matchmaking for it, which means you either have friends playing it, or you won't be. Halo junkies are going to pick this up regardless of what I've said, but the game can be completed in less than 4 hours. Have that if it's with friends. It's an underwhelming experience packaged with the multiplayer game you already bought years ago. Don't be fooled. Rent it at most.